Alrighty, hello YouTube, it's JP Dunphy, your BMW genius here at BMW of Fort Washington. Hopefully you can hear me. Actually, just in case you can't, I'm going to take these out because I don't always believe that these things work too well. Alright, hopefully that transferred just fine. So, we have a couple small updates coming out that I kind of want to bring forth to general viewership here and see if what the general population is feeling about this, and kind of give some updates on what's about to come out as we go forward here. So first and foremost, if you haven't seen it, BMW, Ford, and Honda have now agreed to create a new company, an LLC called Chargescape. And supposedly this Chargescape is supposed to be a new way of focusing that thing that was announced last month about getting EVs and EV owners easier access to charging. Now, in the release that they gave out, it was on the 12th that they released this thing. They didn't mention anything about exactly how many EV charging stations there will be. So I'm still curious about that. I remember in their initial aim, they said something about 30 or 30,000. They either said 30,000 or 35,000 EVs by 2025, I believe, was their goal. Either way, that's a really good number, and I hope that they actually reach that. When it comes down to it, I'm really curious to see when they would give out details. So now they just released, as of the 12th, a new detailed version, or I should say semi-detailed version of what they expect. Apologies if the light's a little bit off. I feel like it's white lighting me in a weird way. Anyway, so obviously BMW Group, Ford Motor Company, and American Honda Motor Company, I believe is what they call it here in here, is a lot of money between those companies and just getting this thing out. So I feel like if anyone's going to be able to do it, it'll be them. And I think the idea behind it is that they're going to try and match sort of Tesla's plug-and-play feature, where they can plug into any of these automakers. And considering Honda's actually on GM's platform, it might include GM as well, because I remember they were on the original thing, but they're not in this particular press release. So I'm not sure if GM's like jumping in on the entirety of this. But with the press release and Chargescape's basic details that were released, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with it, specifically because something they emphasized heavily. So I actually have the press release right here behind me, so I can kind of look at this as I talk to you. And the idea behind it is they have three things that they kind of use their bullet points, saying that Chargescape aims to unlock the full potential of electric vehicle technology through the convenience managed energy services never before seen with gasoline-powered vehicles, benefiting EV customers and electric utilities and automakers. Secondly, BMW Group, Ford, and Honda will leverage years of cross-industry research around the Open Vehicle Grid Integration Platform, OVGIP, to create a single platform that can seamlessly connect electric vehicles, automakers, and their interested EV customers to manage energy usage for a broad pool of EVs. And the third point is that Chargescape will aim to provide EV customers financial benefits through EV-enabled grid services, as well as reduced EV customers' personal carbon footprints while supporting grid resiliency. Now let's break that down a little bit as to what they seem to be saying. So without reading word for word everything that they put in here, the idea behind it is that they seem like they're going to not only build these EV things, which are going to be CCS1 standard, so that's the United States standard for fast charging, as well as the North American charge standard, so the Tesla plug. It seems they're going to be integrating both those into these stations. Again, it doesn't say that in here, but that's what they said with the initial announcement of this entire endeavor. So I believe they're still going to do that. Again, the idea here being that instead of requiring to have various apps and whatnot for various users, so like, you know, ChargePoint, Electrify America, EVgo, and in this case probably a Chargescape. I feel like they could have done better on that name. Maybe that's just me. I feel like they could have definitely done better on the name. But you know, you get with what you get. But I think the idea behind this is that it's going to be a situation where they're not only putting in charging stations and charge inverters to be able to step up power from the normal grid, But it seems, at least from what they're saying here, is that they're going to be adding also wind power as well as solar power for these stations and their responsive grids as well, making the grid not only more capable, because one of the biggest issues with all these EVs being added to the grid and added to the system is that sometimes these grids can't even handle all this extra EV and power requirements. So they're trying to find a way around that so they can support not only the grid but also the EV charging standards. With that happening, that means that they're going to be adding all this extra infrastructure, not just the charger themselves, but also supportive infrastructure for the general grid itself. How they're going to do that, they didn't actually say in this entire release itself, so I'll be curious to see exactly how that works. But one of the things that was mentioned specifically from the Ford Motor Company and their kind of talk about this is, let me find the exact thing here. Chargescape will accelerate the true potential of EV revolution by providing significant benefits to both utilities and EV customers through smart vehicle to grid services. So what that says to me is that they're finding a way so that if, God forbid, you ever have a situation where not only will these EV stations benefit EV customers themselves, but also the grid itself. So making the grid greener. But another thing that was pointed out in here is a vehicle to grid power option, meaning that I'm not sure if they have already sort of found a way to do this with their current technology, or if there's going to be new technology coming out as they go forward. I know Ford already does this with their Ford Lightning. Let me see if I can go over here and make this a little bit nicer. So Ford already does this with the Ford Lightning, where you can basically plug in and not only provide power from the house to the car, but if the house's power goes down, the car can now be your 240 volt system for the house. I think that's brilliant and a great way to leverage EV potential to, benefit home users as well as the EV owner themselves. Now, again, it says in here that let me read it directly from this thing so you can get exactly what they're saying. Electric vehicle customers will also have the opportunity for even more significant impact by sharing the stored energy in their EV batteries with the grid during times of peak demand through vehicle-to-grid applications. So what that says to me is that, because of what they mentioned before about EV credits, that they're going to actually pay EV owners if they want to, and they have the ability to, and they, I guess, opt into this, to allow their EV batteries to actually act as a grid stabilizer by being battery packs for the grid at large in the area. Exactly how that might work is they might have a thing where if you have your EV, it's fully charged, and say the grid goes down in a certain area, they might say, hey, get a, again, this is my viewing and interpretation of what they're saying here, but they'll say that if you go and plug in your EV to the station and act as a generator for the grid, when the grid is either at peak hours or down, that you might be able to now provide a general area with power where necessary, and they will give you a credit, whether that's going to be used to be able to charge for either free or whatever it might be, to your benefit. So that in theory is a fantastic option. I'm not sure exactly if that is how they plan to implement this, but again, given what they've put out in their little press release, that seems to be where they're going with it. Again, another major benefit of this whole system is that it's going to be plug and play. So similar to the Tesla system, you simply go and plug in. How this will integrate with other things, like for instance, BMW's Electrify America, depending on what your thing is. So 7 Series gets 3 years of complimentary charging, and iX and i4 and now the upcoming i5, which I'll go over in a minute, will also get 2 years, 30 minutes, complimentary sessions for Electrify America. I have no idea if that's going to somehow translate into this system as well, but that might be part of the whole quote-unquote credit system that they talked about in the press release for these automakers. Another benefit of this is it seems that everyone that is in this release, again, Ford, BMW, and Honda, that their EV structures, they all seem to have high storage battery packs. So I wonder if that's going to be based on this whole system as well. I'm not sure how they'll play into things like an i4 eDrive 35 with a smaller 66, usable kilowatt hour battery pack, but we'll see how that works out. Anywho, The idea of it, of course, being that plug and play, you'll simply be able to walk up to any of these stations, plug your car in, and that's it. There's probably going to be a setup similar to Tesla, how you set up an app, and it basically communicates with that, and then charges you whatever the current area time is, or energy requirements and charge is, to charge. But again, the idea here being that we're going to make the beneficial for any EV owners to simply walk up, plug in, and there you go. So when that happens, that's a good thing. Because that means anyone that is new to EV charging will get an even better time. And if you're transitioning from Tesla to any of these other companies, Ford, BMW, or Honda, that you will have an easier charge system. They also seem to be going really fast track on this. So based on the fact that they say they want to go green for to support the grid itself, as well as the chargers. I'm not sure if they're going to roll out the chargers first, then the green, or vice versa, or at the same time. That's not stipulated in this press release that they put out. Again, it's a really short one, so I mean, I'll be curious to see how that goes. Now, in other news, as of right now, we actually have our 2024 i5 and 530 launch cars on their way to the dealership at this point. So as right now, they're just arriving at the VDC, that's the Vehicle Distribution Center, which means that we'll usually get them within the week, maybe 2 weeks at the most. But that also means before the end of this month, I should be able to start putting together videos about the new 5 Series. Again, we're only getting an i5 M60, so the high power, almost 600 horsepower electric 5 Series. For that, and then we're also going to be getting the 530, which will be running the same engine that's in our current 3 Series and 4 Series, 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. But again, that new setup should be very interesting to see. Now, the i5 M60 also is coming out with, of course, driver assistant professional, highway assistant with eye activation. I'll be giving a specific video on that so I can show you guys exactly how that works and be the first to the market to give you that information. And if it's coming out with the 5 Series, that means that it's eventually going to trickle down to the rest of the lineups as BMW comes out. I'm assuming it'll come out with the new class stuff that's supposed to come out in 2025. Now, if you haven't, because that's when the new car should be here, and I should be able to give you guys more information about that as it comes out. Very excited to make the new content for the channel, and let me know in the comments for this what you guys want to see. So that's it. Just a quick little update on some stuff that's coming out that can benefit you as a potential owner of BMWs, and of course everything else in the automotive world that can directly affect our general market. And yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for being with me, and have a great rest of your day. See ya.